Hey everybody, welcome back to another exciting episode of Stash Report from the Stash Project. Today is August 17th, 2020, and a little show for you today. Most of Japan was on their summer vacation this week. Usually that happens a little earlier in the summer, but obviously everything with the Rona going on. It was a situation where they had another Monday holiday, and then they just most places decided to go ahead and close down for the week, which makes sense. I mean, hey, you're already off for one day. Who wants to go for the other four? I'm actually doing that with my job in the week of Labor Day. I'm already not working on Labor Day, and I'm taking the rest of the week off. So, yeah, with that being said, we have a couple of domestic kit releases as well as a few development sort of teases, I guess would probably be the best word, from the folks over at Nunu Hobby. So looking at those first, they have some images here of the finalized test shot of, or finalized production shot really, of the upcoming BMW 320i E46. For folks who don't remember this because it's been on pre-order for quite a while now. This is sort of the base of of several kits that are becoming. There is an S2000 version, which is super touring, which was sort of like the end of STW before DTM came back into effect. You would have a M3 GTR version of this, which would be a coupe, a two-door, and then there's also going to be an E90 touring version of this done at some later date as well. So getting this kit out sort of unlocks an achievement, if you will, of having a bunch of other things that this tooling's chassis, running gear, base interior, and stuff like that is all based on. Uh, you know, getting this kit out, even if it's not something that necessarily interests you directly, could be the key to something else. A lot of people could give one hoot or another about a Dutch touring car championship vehicle, which is what this Marlboro livery thing's going to be. Also, it will be interesting to see how they intend to deal with the Marlboro liveries, if they're going to be something that comes in the PE set. Obviously, your Shunkos, Blue Stuffs, uh, Taboo, etc., will probably hop on the train to each produce some Marlboro livery for this, being that each of those companies, the decal companies, tend to look at their own home market as being who's going to buy the stuff. So that would give you a European, a Japanese, and like a Hong Kong based or Asian based, if you will, um, decal options. So yeah, taking a look at the sort of unpainted chassis and interior here, it all it just looks like a model kit. I mean, it's hard to tell with these images. A whole heck of a lot. It is a curbside. I know that Misha over at USCP, which is the Ukrainian scale car production resin guys, they say that they're going to make a civilian interior for this kit. So that'll at least give you the option to build it as not a race car. They're also talking about doing a M version of this kit, like like an M. I guess it would technically be an M3. I almost said M5, but that's a completely different car. An M3 out of this as well. So there's that to look forward to. And overall, it all looks good in white styrene on a screen. So I'm looking forward to seeing it, in my hand at some point. Frankie's going to be doing several of the Macau liveries for 2001, 2002. When that was a touring race before it got turned into a GT3 race, obviously. It's Macau's GTs, or the Gia race in Macau and the Macau FIA GT race, have had a very interesting history in the sense that that race has persevered through a number of regulations changes where you're talking about it being classic touring cars from like the 80s, and then, or I should say from the 70s, and then it went into Group 5 in the late 70s and early 80s, and then it went to Group A cars when you're dealing with things like the Sierras and the E30 BMWs, and then it went into sort of a period of uh, touring car, four-door touring cars, and then eventually went into the GT3 type of cars. So it's very sort of amusing if you go back and you just look at the finishing results of that race over the course of time. It's not attached to any series, so that allows them the freedom to sort of pick and choose. I guess if you want to consider that to be whatever the most popular racing series would be. Macau, there still is a Macau Grand Prix at this point, which there's a motorcycle race as well as like a Formula 2, Formula 3 type event held during that weekend of events as well. Easy for me to say. But the main shebang, if you will, of the weekend has always been the big race, which now again is a GT3 race, but it used to be a touring car race for a while. In the early 2000s, before it became the GT3 race, it was the World Touring Car Championship stop, which is why there's a Chevy Cruze that BMAX made, because that car raced there. Going over to some development stuff. So that was a production test shot. I've heard through the grapevine that there's more delays with that kit. Last time I looked at a release date, it was September 10th, so that probably is not necessarily a realistic release date if they're still dealing with delays of some sort or another for whatever the reason might be. But we got some CAD drawings of a couple of other upcoming kits. One of these I'm kind of disappointed to see is still in CAD. I would have liked to have thought it would have been somewhere else along the way by now, and that would be this kit, which is the Porsche 911 SCRS rally car. So this is a Group B rally car. They did rally Porsche 911s at one point in time. A lot of people saw this and the way certain parts of the car were laying when it was originally sort of just shown as a concept drawing, and it lost their minds because they thought BMAX, this was originally going to be a BMAX kit before the whole fallout with the Aoshima. But they, that's not the way that car sits, blah blah blah. I'm like, it's, I'm pretty sure it's a rally car. And no, they didn't rally 911s. I'm pretty sure if you go look up Group B rally on Wikipedia, there's an entry for Porsche 911s. It was early in the Group B stages when like the Opel Manta and things like that would have been running. The Lancia 037 would have been dominant and things like that. Because originally the plan for Porsche for Group B, if it had kept going, was to rally the 959, which they did do in Paris to Dakar, but it never really made it out into a actual Group B car. Anyway, so taking a look at some of this stuff, you can see that it's going to be another curbside, as all their Porsche kits have been. It's I'm not gonna spend a whole heck of a lot of time here because if you've seen the bottom of a Porsche 911, you've seen the bottom of every Porsche 911. There's the suspension's got a little heavier duty reinforcements to it. That's pretty much it. And then this gives you sort of the interior and overview. I like these CAD drawings because if you know, not necessarily know what you're looking at, but if you know what you're looking at, things that are in different colors obviously are different parts, so you can tell somewhat the way the parts break down in terms of what you're looking at, and it looks like it'll be a nice kit. I'm sure the Porsche 935s have been pretty nice kits themselves, so there is that. No word on any kind of team or livery on that. And then another one, which I think, which I had honestly thought was sort of had slid by the wayside because we hadn't heard anything else about it while we're hearing about all the other kits that they're doing, was and this only sort of ever broke cover once at the Nuremberg Toy Fair a couple of years ago when they sort of put out catalogs of like, look at all this stuff we're going to be doing over the next couple of years, and that's this Audi A4 touring car. Now this is going to be for our friends overseas, a very popular vehicle. It did race at Macau, which is part of the reason why it's coming out. It won the race a couple of times in the mid 2000s, but this is also a very popular vehicle in, I guess technically still would have been European touring rather than world touring, but certainly British touring got this. When these CAD images popped up on Facebook, the British guys went wild, quite literally. Started posting so many pictures of Audi A4s. I didn't realize that many of them had ever run on races, but yeah. So this will be another, again, curbside, giving you sort of like a bottom view of the way the CAD breaks down, and then the interior and the sort of overview of the bottom. If you look at the interior there, you're seeing ahead of the dashboard, you see the top of the casting for the engine block. So yes, this is another curbside. It would not surprise me if some point in the future, when this kit does see the light of day, because we're probably talking about next year on this, that again, the guys over at Ukraine will probably do a civilian interior for it, maybe some more civilian parts in terms of the exterior, because obviously your regular Audi A4 is not running a giant skid plate on the front and a giant wing on the back and things like that. So that's just, like I said, a look at some projects coming out of Nunu. None of those are new announcements by any stretch of the imagination. The Peugeot 306 Maxi rally car did get released in Hong Kong this week finally, so that will be on like a wider distribution by the end of the month, and that would be a new toolkit, obviously. That that leaves the BMW as the next new kit. So when it shows up exactly is a matter of conjecture at this point. Um, and right now, the BMW is the only new toolkit in the pipeline as far as being like ready to come out whenever they can release it, sort of thing. Everything else that currently has release dates from New are reissues. Some of them are modified reissues. Some of them are significantly modified reissues, but none of them are new tools. That's what it is there. But getting the BMW out again will open up a wide variety of kits as well. So let's look at these two domestic releases. They're both round two kits. So first up, you have out of the MPC side of things, the Tiki Trike. So this is the third of the Trick Trike series. If I can get my window loader to load here so that I can see this out of the box, so I know what I'm talking about, that would be fantastic. There we go. Interesting box art. It's certainly again, very interesting vehicle in terms of design. Now I got a little static of last video about me saying that these things were like designed when the designed on drugs back in the 60s and the 70s. I just want to know how exactly you operate this vehicle if it was a 1-to-1 scale vehicle. Like there's no physical possible way you could drive this, and that's what I mean when I say that somebody on drugs was designing this. These things, show rods, the Tom Daniels stuff, all of the craziness that happened in the 60s and 70s isn't necessarily something that I'm against or diss on any real purpose. It's just that I understand what these things were. Like Hot Wheels back in the day, even when I was a kid, were like crazy. They weren't factory stock. They weren't realistic. There were all these things with animals and, oh look, it's a snake head with wheels on it and things like that. And so I get why these kits were popular at the time, right? When these were new and people were kids, I totally get why a kid would go buy the Tiki Trike because it looks like a Hot Wheels that he has, and so there's a bigger version of something like that. I just think in retrospect, looking back, we need to admit that everyone was, having a really mellow time at the moment. So the next one of these coming out will be the Milk Trike. So there is going to be a fourth one, and like I said, they do plan to release all six. So for people who are recollecting these in terms of the fact that they were put, some of them, I think four of them altogether from the looks of it, were put out in the mid 2000s. They're actually going to run all six of them, which would be, from the looks of it, the first time since the 70s that all six have come out. For some reason, two of them have just sort of been neglected by the wayside. So it'll be interesting to see those two, which I think are the last two, that haven't been announced yet. If there's some tooling that has to be done with that, if inserts are missing, they need to be, retooled, whatever the case may be. But anyway, look at the side of the box here, and I will only say again, the whole reason I brought up the drug thing again, because it has customizing psychedelic surf decals. Okay, if you want an LSD trip, that's a certain thing that happened at a certain point in time. I'm not saying that LSD doesn't exist right now, but I'm just wondering when the last time you saw somebody take a trip was, necessarily. The transparencies in here, as Japanese people would call them, but the clear parts in here are available in three different colors. They're just regular clear, then an orange tint and a green tint. A whole bunch of decals in addition to what you see there. There's like a rattan decal for the roof, so you don't have to put the tiki head on there. Drag parachute, whole 9 yards. So another one of those out for the folks that are collecting and or interested in them. And then the other kit, also an MPC kit. Odd to see so many MPC kits in 1 week. Is this? It is the 1932 Chrysler Imperial. The Gangbusters release of this. So this is significant because it has not had a number of the pieces that make it the Gangbusters set in quite a while. Now, this kit has been regurgitated a number of times since the 60s, pretty much once a decade. There's also a different Chrysler out there, the LeBaron, sort of a four-door-ish kind of looking kit. In addition to this, so this hasn't been out, I want to say it's been about 10 years. I should have wrote the date down. I admit I should have wrote the date down, but it did come out in like the racing, either the very end of the uh, Ertl era or the beginning of the Racing Champions era, but it's been a good 10 years. And again, it hasn't had a whole bunch of parts. So I'm going to show you the side of the box here because all of the stuff on the side of the box is, other than the engine, is pretty much what has been missing for the last several releases. So it's got that 18-piece motorcycle in it, which is pretty much the selling point for this one to me because I think the motorcycle is pretty neat. You get two of these figures. It says, I'm not sure if it says on the box art here, but elsewhere in the literature for this, it says they have multiple arm options. So I guess you could make them probably stand, or at least maybe one has gun in it, one doesn't. Maybe they switch who's driving, because clearly one of the guys is driving, the other guy's just sitting there looking to shoot somebody. It's very interesting to see in 2020 that all of these firearms are included because the firearms got taken out of the kits, like the Dodge Monaco, which is the Joker Goon car and or Roscoe's patrol car for a while. They had the weapons taken out. They've been put in the last couple of releases. It was how a shotgun and a kid's toy. How dare you? So this not only has a pistol, but a Tommy gun and a sniper rifle. I don't even know what you're robbing with a sniper rifle exactly, but be that as it may, it's still a cool thing to have a 1/25th scale weapons, even if they are a little vintage in their era. You have the safe, which has multiple pieces to the front of it there, so you can have it like closed or blown open. Cash drawer, jewelry drawer. There's the windshield for this, and actually the side windows. I think the back window too come either regular or bullet riddled. So I mean, you could really make quite the again for 2020 quite the violent little vignette out of this kit. So. Uh, it's a very interesting kit in the sense that like the side panels are separate for the interior. It's something you really didn't see too much of at the time period. The only other sort of vintage kit that comes to the top of my mind just thinking about it are the 51. I think it's 51, right? I'll try to think. If I see it on my shelf. Yeah, 51. The 51 Chevy, like the Bel Air convertible and the other and the I guess it's technically a coupe. Is it a hardtop or a coupe? I'm not sure. I don't have that one. That got released a few years ago. Both those have separate side door panels, door cards, side panels, whatever you want to call them. Which again are kits tooled up in the 1960s, where you really didn't see that too much. It was usually, a tub. It was a tub of butter with everything molded into it. So I believe, guys, that wraps this one up. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys had a great weekend, and we'll see you guys on the other side.